Things change, but Deer Park Natural Spring Water is a constant you can count on, bringing you the essence of home for 150 years and counting. Sourced from carefully selected springs, Deer Park Natural Spring Water has naturally occurring electrolytes for a crisp, refreshing taste. Find Deer Park Natural Spring Water at your favorite local retailer today. After 150 years, there's only one thing left to say. Deer Park, that's still good water.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, how to get 30, how to get 20, 20, 20, how to get 20, 20, how to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. Joining me once again on the show is Jon Loree, drummer for Tantric. Jon, welcome back to the show, my friend.
So happy to be back, as always.
You were here all the way back on episode 9, the ultimate greatest rock drummers playlist, as well as episode 40, the ultimate underrated drummers playlist. But tonight, for your three-peat on the show, we're pivoting away from a drum-centric topic, unless you use a steering wheel as a makeshift drum kit, and I am very guilty of that. Tonight, our topic is the ultimate hard rock road trip playlist. So, Jon, as someone who spends a lot of time on the road with Tantric, what were you looking to bring to the musical mix this evening?
This was hard because, number one, it's not drum-centered, as you said, and that's a little strange. I'm going to have to pick songs that I enjoy listening to while I drive, but also pick songs that maybe I was trying to go with the not so on the nose thing, but then I ended up defaulting to a lot of songs that had to do with driving because I'm like, that's a great song and it gets me amped to drive. And full disclosure, when you're kind of in a touring rock band, I feel like I listen to so much rock music that sometimes it's really this would be the driving jazz playlist. If this was what I actually listened to on the road, it would be a lot of jazz. But here we are, and we're talking about rock music, and these were songs that I remember having my first car and just blasting these songs while I was driving for the first time with that first feeling of freedom. That's this.
Awesome. And my approach was very similar to yours. You don't realize just how many songs there are about road trips and driving and cars. It's a pretty popular topic, even when you go all the way back to the 50s and 60s. There's no shortage of these type of songs. However, there was an outlier of songs that I put at the bottom of the list that are songs I love to rock out to when I'm driving, but have absolutely nothing to do with being behind the wheel of anything. So I'll be interested to see, because I've got a list of over 40 songs right now, which ones I pick and choose from.
That my list is right around 30, so I'm kind of up there with you. And I think, there are songs you get super amped about while you drive, and they kind of force your foot to push down on the gas just a little bit, and you don't even realize it. So I kind of went with those as well. And I also picked a lot of songs that were more modern than towards the 80s realm or the 90s, where we started to see bands get a little bit more aggressive with their approach. So, yeah, it's going to be super interesting. Very excited.
Well, let's get down to business. Tonight, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Jon and I will be curating a hard rock road trip mixtape, and we'll use the old cassette deck approach. Jon, as my special guest, will begin side A with his first song choice, and then I'll add a song that I feel best follows up that choice. We'll then flip-flop choosing songs until we've mapped out 10 songs for side A. We'll then give our mixtape a proverbial flip, and we'll map out side B, only this time I'll kick things off with Jon choosing second. Our overall goal for the episode is to craft the best hard rock road trip mixtape possible through only 20 songs. At the end of the show, you could take our conversation to the next level by visiting the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com to give our final mixtape a listen via the embedded playlist. And if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. There you can enjoy ad-free episodes of the show, become a future guest, and so much more. And a few of the Patreon mixtapers chimed in with the songs they would use to kick off a hard rock road trip mixtape, so let's see what songs have them flirting with 90 and a 55. Mike Daly chimed in with Rage Against the Machine's Sleep Now in the Fire to set the tone for the rest of the trip. David Owens chimed in saying AC/DC deserves some recognition in this mix, and he went with It's a Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll. David Lee Smith chimed in with Badlands' Hard Driver. Sean Goff chimed in saying the first time he heard this song and band, he was on a road trip with his uncle in his Thunderbird with the T-tops down, and that track would be Tesla's Modern Day Cowboy. Philip Bergman chimed in with Finger Eleven's Paralyzer. Chad Lamassa chimed in with Dead Sarah's Weatherman, saying Susie Medley's opening riff is absolutely amazing. Sticking with that opening riff theme, Tom Hutchinson said the same about Ted Nugent's Snakeskin Cowboys. And finally, Seeker chimed in with Iron Maiden's The Writing on the Wall, saying the opening sounds almost country or desert rock, and the song, as well as the video, have a lot of allusions to riding, traveling, and questing. Once again, if you'd like to chime in on a future My Weekly Mixtape episode, you could join the Patreon Mixtaper family at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape.
Things change, but Deer Park Natural Spring Water is a constant you can count on, bringing you the essence of home for 150 years and counting. Sourced from carefully selected springs, Deer Park Natural Spring Water has naturally occurring electrolytes for a crisp, refreshing taste. Find Deer Park Natural Spring Water at your favorite local retailer today. After 150 years, there's only one thing left to say. Deer Park, that's still good water.
John, I'm officially pressing the record button on this mixtape, and the keys are yours. What song are you using to get this show on the road? Oh, don't log off.
Oh, man. Well, with that, I'm going to go with Fuel by Metallica. Number one. I think that's like hard rock driving song about driving and cars and muscle and fire and things. Yeah, Fuel by Metallica.
All you have to say is give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire. And everybody knows what's about to happen. And there's actually a really funny meme I love out there that just says, give me fuel, give me fire, give me dabba jabba zaza.
Yeah, yep. I also saw, I reposted one not too long ago that was, give me fuel, give me fire, give me Reba McEntire. And I'm a big Reba fan. So I was like, that's perfect.
Look, I have no problem with Fuel being on a hard rock road trip mixtape. I know there's some people out there going, but guys, Metallica's metal. The Load and Reload albums really are hard rock centric. I'd say they're the band's closest thing to a Black Sabbath album that they'll ever do. And I'm actually a big fan of both Load and Reload. More the Load side of things, but Fuel is one that they play pretty much every show. It's a staple. It's lived long enough in the Metallica legacy to be just a concert staple. And tonight, Road Trip Kickstarter, which I'm exactly going to jump off of that statement and go to 1989. I know you said you didn't do a lot of 80s stuff, but coming out of Fuel, let's go right on the nose. 1989's Dr. Feelgood, Motley Crue, Kickstart My Heart. When I get high on speed. Top Fuel, Funny Car is a drug for me. This is one of those songs that is not necessarily about driving. However, it's used in so many driving instances. NASCAR, you see it in racing commercials. It's very much associated with driving. even though anyone that knows what happened in Nikki Sixx knows this song is more about the heart part of it than the racing double entendres that are going to be through a lot of the songs I've picked. A lot of the songs I pick could be very on the nose about driving, but in a lot of instances, they're about something else. And Kickstart My Heart is literally what they had to do to Nikki Sixx. And while it's kind of autobiographical, it fits perfectly into this hard rock road trip mix.
I was actually figuring you would pick this one, so that's why I didn't. And so I was like, I think Brian's gonna pick Kickstart My Heart, so I just won't even bother putting it on my list. But great choice. If you didn't say anything about it, or if it wasn't implied, I probably would have picked it myself at some point. So great choice. Always, that riff starting right out of the gate is like, whoa, all right, I'm ready to get behind the wheel. So I think we're going to have a lot of songs like that on this hard rock road trip mix.
Yeah, this episode already seems like it's going to be renamed to Songs to Get Speeding Tickets To. But with that said, what do you have to follow up Fuel and Kickstart My Heart?
Yeah, all right. So I can have something that bridges from the 80s to the 2000s with Ozzy Osbourne's I Don't Want to Stop.
Nice.
This, for me, growing up, this was one of those songs that I heard for the first time and was like, whoa, this is like hard rock. This is exactly what I need in my life to get me amped. And I love Ozzy. I've always been one of the bigger Ozzy fans. And so I just think that this song is perfect for a hard rock mix.
Easily my favorite song on 2007's Black Rain. It's a great tune, and I've been a little hard on Ozzy's last two albums. I do enjoy some of the production that Andrew Watt has done, specifically speaking the Rolling Stones' recent album, but there's something about the two Ozzy albums that he produced that I'm not fully on board with. I don't want to say I hate them, but it just seems a little too slick for Ozzy. And I feel like Black Rain was the last album of Ozzy's that truly sounded and felt like a tried and true Ozzy Osbourne album.
I agree with that. And I think they've been trying to do, at least the Andrew Watt stuff has been trying to go back to, hey, let's kind of be like Sabbath here, and let's kind of do a throwback, but it's going to be modern too. And it's going to be small on production, and it's not going to be this big grandiose, where all the drums are triggered and such. And I'm sure they were, but you don't get the Black Rain thing from the previous two Ozzy albums that we've gotten. So for me, same way, I think that this is like Ozzy's last big arena rock production.
Well, I am going to tap right into that arena rock production, and I'm going to go with a band whose drum sound is signature to that arena rock sound, although it's done in the 2000s and beyond. There's something about this band's drum sound that I really liken back to the big hairband 80s sound. However, it's done with modern rock, and not a lot of bands use it. But when you're using it, the song has to be big enough to fit the bombastic explosion that happens in the track. And I know I'm going to hear groans because we're coming out of Metallica, Motley Crue, and Ozzy Osbourne. But batting cleanup on the ultimate hard rock road trip mixtape is Nickelback and Animals from 2005's All the Right Reasons. I'm driving back on Black, just got my license back. I got this feeling in my veins. This train is coming off the track. This song has nothing to do with driving, except that line. However, the song, the drums and the guitar riff, it just makes me drive faster. And it's one of those songs that has allusions to driving, but is about something completely different. One of the first of many examples, but and I know you're a Nickelback fan here, so I know you're going to be on board with me at least.
Yeah, I had like at least 6 Nickelback songs on this playlist as far as what I was thinking for ideas. Of course, Animals being one of them. And I always feel like it is on the nose in a sense, and that's fine because it's not about driving, but it is about driving. And I think that if you're riding down the road in your fast car, this is like the perfect song for it. You get that sort of thunderous engine rumbling vibe from Animals. Of course, I'm a huge Daniel Adair fan, so all those fills at the very beginning of the track are phenomenal fills. And I feel like it's one of the songs that changed the modern landscape of rock music. It's one of those that it became such a big hit, and guys were kind of like, "Wait, we can write about that now?" And like, can we push
open.
that? Can we push that envelope a little bit more? And Nickelback was always at the forefront of that, so I'm with you on that. I like it. That's a great choice.
All right, so we're up to the 5th spot. What are you following up Nickelback's Animals with?
5th spot. In the same vein, though. Another great band known for their more arena rock, bombastic 2000 style approach to rock music. I'm going to go with Adrenaline by Shinedown.
Yes!
Yeah. And I saw Shinedown, geez, this is probably going back 15 years now. Maybe. Yeah, close to it. And they opened with Adrenaline. And nothing gets, this was back, I guess this record had just come out, and then Threat to Survival was the one after it. I saw them on whatever tour that was, which is going back a ways now. But Adrenaline is such a great track, and it's a great opener to this record, to probably my favorite Shinedown record, Amaryllis. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have anything to do with driving, but it gets you amped. I guess no, Needles in the Red, they do say that.
Yeah, like the only line that really would lend itself to being in a car would be, give me the wheel so we can move a little faster. I'll make it real. I'm not a glorious disaster. I mean, the wheel, you think steering wheel?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, 100% this was on my list. The same band, song, and album, complete scoop on it. This song had to make the episode tonight, and if you didn't pick it, I was going to. I think it is one of their most adrenaline-fueled songs. It just has this ridiculous tempo and pacing to it that a lot of Shinedown music, especially their more modern stuff, is a little slower and a little more driving, like The Sound of Madness, Cut the Cord, Planet Zero. It's more of that driving riff. Adrenaline is just literally pedal to the metal, and I love this song so much. And yeah, I'd have to say Amaryllis is my favorite album of theirs as well. They still play a lot from it live. I'll Follow You is always a staple. The title track, Amaryllis, is a staple, but they could play pretty much anything off that. Bully. They haven't played Adrenaline much in recent years, and I think that's a shame, but obviously they have more and more albums with each cycle, so.
And they've been moving through the times a whole heck of a lot, too. And another band that's at the forefront of the change of landscape with rock music. So a lot of their stuff has developed a bigger production value. And so Adrenaline, though, to me, just sounds like 4 guys just riffing. And that's one of my favorite parts about that song. Not a whole lot of production in the quote-unquote sense. And it's just a rock tune that opens such a great record. So
I'm going to lean into the atmosphere that we have going musically, but I'm going to go with a song that has a little bit more production, as this gentleman's music always was very heavy on a specific sound and uniqueness to his music. And I'm going to go off of 1998's Hellbilly Deluxe, his first ever solo single. This track was named after Grandpa Munster's car. We're going with Rob Zombie and Dragula. Shockingly, another hard rock song that's using driving as a metaphor for sex. Dig through the ditches and burn through the witches. I slam in the back of my Dragula. Regardless, the video, you think the car, it's synonymous for me because Dragula was the Munsters car.
Yeah.
And Rob Zombie brought that metal touch to it. So regardless of the metaphors, this song is all about putting the pedal to the metal. And it just fits with the vibe we've got going on side A so far.
Nice. I love it. That is a great choice. Dragula, of course. I'm a huge Monsters fan. And then when you find out, oh, this guy, Rob Zombie, wrote a song about Dragula. It's like, yeah, that is awesome. And it's a great driving song I had on my list as well. So good scoop on that one. Just trying to think of what to do next. Where do we go? How many more songs do we have on side A? You have 2 and I have 2. Oh boy. Okay. All right. I got it. I'm going to go with we're in the same vein. Something that gets me amped to drive, but has nothing to do with driving is Black Label Society's Fire It Up.
Nice.
I love Black Label Society. They're more of that, mid-tempo style band. But this song is about getting you pumped. And the very beginning of it, when it does kick into the main riff, is the perfect thing when you're driving down the highway.
And in what would only be considered a happy coincidence, Zakk Wylde was the lead guitarist on Ozzy's I Don't Want to Stop.
Oh, that is right. Yeah.
So he's making a second appearance
Double.
on tonight's episode, all on side A. He has such a unique sound. He is legendary. I had the chance back in 2000, my hard rock band at the time opened for Black Label Society at the Stone Pony on the summer stage. And it was one of the most insane gigs. We got to play in front of his wall of amps and everything else.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that day. Real good dude. The band was incredible. This song is awesome. So yeah, you could say you're firing up the car. I mean, really,
yeah,
if you wanna,
that's what I was going with.
yeah, there you go. And I'm going to go with another guitarist who I think is a household name like a Zakk Wylde, and go with a song that is really on the nose. I can't see the road through the driving rain, but I won't stop now. Her love is calling me home, seems to guide the way, so I won't stop now. From 2018's Living the Dream, I'm going with Slash featuring Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators, Driving Rain. This riff is, dare I say it, the best Slash riff since something off of Appetite for Destruction. This riff is a down and dirty blues rock riff. And I'll also say, this is my favorite ever Miles Kennedy vocal performance over Ghosts of Days Gone By from Alter Bridge. There's something about the harmonies in this chorus. They're so simple yet effective. I love the way Miles Kennedy's dropping down in the chorus to let Todd Kearns, the bass guitarist and backing vocalist for Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators, take the higher end of the spectrum. Their voices work so well against each other. It just adds a vocal dynamic to the song that I really gravitated to. This song just rips. And yeah, it's on the nose with Driving too. And hell, it's in the title, Driving Rain.
That's a great choice, and I've always loved the Slash and Miles Kennedy duo. I think that they work super well together, and it's everything that you could have wanted Guns N' Roses to become if things were different, and that's what I like about them. Slash still rips, and he still creates some of the best guitar intros, this being one of them for sure. And yeah, on the nose, it works. It's awesome. That's perfect.
All right. Well, what are you going to follow up Driving Rain with?
This is the last one on side A, right?
For you, yes.
For me, yeah. Oh man, this is tough. Okay, I'm going to do it. The Pretender by the Foo Fighters.
Yes.
I'm picking stuff that's out there, but I think if we're talking about up-tempo songs that get you pumped to drive, this is definitely one of them. That snare in the very beginning, once, the vocals fade out, that ba, 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 and it gets you pumped. It's a very aggressive song. And we've talked about the Foo Fighters on this show multiple times, especially Taylor Hawkins and Dave Grohl. So, yeah, I feel like there had to have been a Foo Fighter song on this.
Could not agree more. You may have picked my all-time favorite Foo Fighter song. That might be number one. Sometimes I pivot between a couple of songs, but that one is really, really up there. I actually had No Way Back from 2005's In Your Honor on my list, thinking, Pleased to Meet You, Take My Hand, There Is No Way Back From Here. It's like, I guess you could say that's like Get in the Car, where you had that riff, that's that very breezy riff in that song. But The Pretender has that really bluesy riff, and it feels like that old school 70s rock bravado.
Yes.
Brought to a modern era.
And also, I feel like it's a freedom thing, too. You know, what if I say I'm not like the others? And then you're behind the wheel. It's like, yeah, I'm not like everybody else out here.
And when I talked at the beginning of the episode about playing the wheel drum, so to speak, whenever this song comes on, I almost feel myself like closed fists, like doof, 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 doof. Because it's just one of those songs that really gets you going. It gets you pumped up and, you know, probably gets you a speeding ticket, which a lot of the songs on side A would do.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
We have weaved in and out of older bands and newer bands throughout the side, and there's been a lot of classic names on this side. And because I only get to close out one side, I'm going to go with an anthem to close out side A with a band name that's as big as Metallica, as far as I'm concerned. Metallica might be the biggest metal band of all time, but AC/DC's got to be the biggest hard rock band of all time. Maybe they got to be in the top 3 for most people, I would think. And no stop signs, speed limits. Nobody's going to slow me down. Like a wheel, going to spin it. Nobody's going to mess me around. Let's go really on the nose. The title track from 1979's Highway to Hell. I could have went with Rock and Roll Train from 2008's Black Ice. And yes, you're traveling, but you're on the tracks. And I don't know, like, I love that song for driving, but Highway to Hell is the true driving anthem for AC/DC. And I do want to again give a shout out to David Owens, who chimed in with It's a Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll. Absolutely love cranking that up, especially if you're in a convertible. There's something about going down the highway in a convertible with a rock song with bagpipes. It's just a vibe.
Yeah, I love it. That's so good. And yeah, I felt like this at some point had to make the list regardless too. Because, I mean, think about all of the lyricism in this song having to do with driving and, you know, that sort of more aggressive side of driving, even into hell. So, yeah, it's definitely top driving hard rock song for sure.
Well, there you have it. Side A of our ultimate hard rock road trip mixtape, which kicked off with Metallica's Fuel, Motley Crue, Kickstart My Heart, Ozzy Osbourne, I Don't Want to Stop, Nickelback, Animals, Shinedown, Adrenaline, Rob Zombie, Dragula, Black Label Society, Fire It Up, Slash, featuring Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators, Driving Rain, Foo Fighters, The Pretender, and AC/DC's Highway to Hell. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. So, John, it looks like Tantric's touring schedule is starting to ramp up now in 2024, as you have dates coming up with Josie Scott's Saliva, Power Man 5000, and Sponge, among others. Want to fill people in on what's been going on with the band?
Yeah, we've got a lot going on. This year is no breaks as usual, not to also make a driving reference there, but we've been hitting it hard, and we've had a couple of months off to get some much needed time with family and friends and home and so on. But yeah, as far as May goes, we go out with Josie Scott's version of Saliva and Trapped and Edema, who we've toured with before. So we do that basically all of May, all across the country. Then we have most of June off, a couple of pockets of dates here and there, and then we go out with Powerman 5000 and Sponge. So that'll be all of July. And yeah, going into next year, a bunch of more headlining dates are coming in. We do Louder Than Life in Louisville, which is huge. And yeah, just hoping on a new record coming next year, early next year, hopefully.
Yeah, you got me with my follow-up, because I was going to say, I saw some pictures of you guys in the studios working on some stuff. Is there any chance that some of those songs might get quote-unquote road tested this summer?
I hope so. I think that we've got a good batch of tunes that we sat in a room in Massachusetts for like a whole weekend and just jammed. And it was like the first authentic feeling version of Tantric, where it was 4 guys in a room with 2 little tiny condenser microphones and just jamming and seeing what came out. And then we took some of those to be full-on demos where we track drums and then track guitar and so on. So we've had those moments of writing and hoping for some good tunes to come going into next year.
Awesome. Well, we are going to start off side B, and this time I get to kick things off. And I am going to go back a little bit. I love my 80s hard rock, and this is one of those bands that I have said for decades wrongly got lumped in to the hair band movement, just because on their first album, yes, they did incorporate a little bit of the look, but musically, this was a band that was much more rooted in the Rolling Stones and bluesy hard rock than they were quote unquote hair bands. However, when you have a few hit power ballads, that will kind of make you that way guilty by default or whatever you want to call it. However, on 1988's Long Cold Winter, Cinderella released a song that even when I was growing up, sitting in the backseat of my parents' car going down to North Carolina for vacation, I would blast this song and just look out the window and feel like I was on the road with this tune. Some fast talking jerk for $1 wiped the smile off my face. I'm driving all night just to keep the rat in a race. Gypsy Road from Cinderella's Long Cold Winter. This riff is so dirty and so bluesy and so not a hair band song. But for some reason, Cinderella just got lumped in. They're like, well, you've got hair, you've got guitars, you're now hair metal. And they were so much more than that. And I hope people get to go out and see Tom Kiefer when he comes around with his solo band, because they still play the entire Cinderella catalog. And to that, he still is able to bring the heft vocally that he did back in his days with Cinderella. So it's kind of a win-win. Unfortunately, Cinderella is no longer going out on the road. And to me, that truly sucks, because they were one of my favorites from that era. But yeah, I got to go with Gypsy Road for my first pick on side B.
There are, so if you didn't know, my old guitar player, Sebastian Labar, is Jeff's son. So,
yes.
You know, Sebastian and I we would jam a lot of those 80s bands that had some more bluesy influence. And it was always talked about that, unfortunately, they were lumped into that 80s hair metal thing, because they were definitely a blues band. They had a lot of that bluesy influence, and Tom Kiefer's high voice being that, nobody's fool. Like, it didn't necessarily lend itself to be in the vein of like a Stevie Ray Vaughan when we think about the blues. But yet, they had so much of that swag that a blues band would, and a phenomenal, phenomenal choice to kick off this second side.
So what are you going to follow up Gypsy Road with?
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. I'm going to go with, it's not classic rock. Well, I guess 20 years old does deem something.
Does a classic rock song make?
Yeah, exactly. And so now I'm going to go with a band that does get thrown into the hard rock realm, but they are so much more, and they're phenomenal writers and good people. 3 Doors Down, It's Not My Time. I love this tune, and I was trying to go off of what you were saying, where you can picture yourself looking out the window as you're driving down the road with your family going like, oh, I feel like I'm in it. This song by Three Doors Down, I always loved growing up. And it has this feeling of you're not backing down and you're ready to take on whatever's coming your way. And I've always connected with tropes like that while I was driving. So that's what I'm going with.
I completely see where you're coming from, where a song that I'd say has a very positive message and it makes you feel good lyrically. When you put that when you're behind the wheel of a car, it almost heightens the feeling and message of the song. One that comes to mind for me would be probably something that I was going to use a song here, but maybe it would work on this episode. So I'm going to put a pin in my thought there.
Yeah, all right.
and dance around that, because now I just got an idea for something for the end of this episode for my last pick. So I'm going to hold on to that for now. And
Great.
Back to Three Doors Down. It's Not My Time has this chord progression that is, dare I use the word, breezy. But when you think about the guitar work in Gypsy Road, it's not chugging along. It's not a heavy tune. It's more the open chords kind of just rocking out. And this, when the song actually kicks in after the opening guitar riff, it's that breezy chord progression that kind of guides you through the song. And it has a similar vibe to Gypsy Road. Three Doors Down is a band that aren't necessarily hard rock, meaning heavy, heavy, heavy. They have their heavier moments, like in Loser, and even to some extent, Kryptonite has a heavier side to it. But It's Not My Time really brings in this pop element to the rock music they're playing. And it works so well. And these guys are truly a hell of a band to see live. They really sound just as good, if not better, than on the albums.
No, I love this band, and the first time I saw them was at the Balloon Festival in 2015
I
when
was at
me
that
and
show.
my brothers and our School of Rock had opened for them. And they were very cool guys, and that automatically for me is a big check mark. So then going through the rest of my teen years, getting finally behind the wheel by myself, Three Doors Down was definitely one of those bands that I spend a bunch. And it just, to me, it's very synonymous with driving. And I think it just has to do with growing up and hearing this band in my generation.
Well, following that up, I actually had an artist in mind, but I'm going to pivot and use the same artist, but in a different way. Because thankfully, this artist has sang about cars across the spectrum of his entire career. And the original song I was thinking about would be Sammy Hagar's I Can't Drive 55, but that has a little bit more of the 80s rock feel to it. So being you went with something a little newer, I'm going to go with something newer, or at least on the newer end of the spectrum from Sammy. It's 13 years old, so is it considered classic rock yet? Who knows? But I'm going to go off of 2011's Chicken Foot 3, the band featuring Sammy Hagar, Joe Satriani, Michael Anthony, and Chad Smith. And I am going with Bigfoot. Don't you worry, it's going to be all right. I'm in a hurry. I'm going to drive all night. Be there in the morning. You could bet your ass. I got both hands on the wheel and my Bigfoot on the gas. Literally the most on-the-nose driving lyrics we've had tonight. That is not a double entendre. No innuendo here. He's literally singing about driving a car to get to his girl. And it's true Sammy fashion. I'm so excited because this summer is going to mark the first time I am catching Sammy Hagar live. And he's doing it with Joe Satriani, Michael Anthony. But instead of having Chad Smith on drums, it's Jason Bonham. And they're doing a night of Van Halen as well as stuff throughout Sammy's career. So hopefully Chickenfoot gets a little bit of representation there, maybe Bigfoot.
They are such a super group. And I was just talking to somebody about them the other day saying they should do more. Like, why don't they? I wish they would. And I'm sure it's scheduling and things not lining up and so on. But Chickenfoot's a fantastic super group of a band, and that's on the nose song, but it totally works.
And what are you going to follow up Gypsy Road, It's Not My Time, and Bigfoot with?
Yeah, if we're talking about, I feel like we have a vibe here. I feel like there's something going on. And more modern bands that had 80s and 90s tropes in what they were doing. This is actually a cover of a song, and it's off their first album, Extreme Behavior. It's Hinder's version of Born to Be Wild.
Okay.
Now, if you haven't heard this, it is a more, in quotes, blistering version of it. And I always wanted to hear Born to Be Wild with a little bit more gusto. Is that the word? I don't know. But I wanted to always have a hard rock version of Born to Be Wild. And we all know the song, so it's easy to sing along to. But it's a great driving track. And Cody Hansen's one of my favorite drummers ever. And this track just absolutely, it has to go on some driving playlist somewhere.
I love the fact that you went with that. The same deluxe version of Extreme Behavior has their cover of Take Me Home Tonight as well, which is really good. Hard to find on streaming, but Hinder is great when it comes to covers. Austin does the vocals on this version extremely well and with a lot more gravel than the original, which is what he did when he brought the heavier side to Hinder at the time. And their version felt faithful but modern. Mm-hmm. And what I think I'm going to do is pivot off of that mindset. And I'm going to go with a newer band, but I'm going to stick with the cover song theme here. They released this digital single in 2022. Now, I'm running out of time because I could see the sun light up the sky, so I hit the road in overdrive, baby. The song is The Weeknd's Blinding Lights, but I am going with Saint Asonia's hard rock version that they put out in 2022. I love the original Blinding Lights. I'm the first to admit that the first time I heard that, I'm like, this song is friggin' awesome. And I use that on my road trip mixes all the time. When I heard Saint Asonia came out with a hard rock version, I was like, oh, now we're talking. And they knock it out of the park. It is so good that I could listen to the original by The Weeknd, followed up by Saint Asonia, and there's enough of a vibe difference that you can listen to them back to back and still enjoy them equally.
We just saw them, me and my brother just saw them with Blackstone Cherry, and they played it, and it was so good. It was like better than what they had recorded, and that's just a live thing. But I love their cover of it because it's not, they have enough feel change in it to be them and to be their own version. But yet when that chorus comes in and it's more of a halftime style groove, it's fantastic. So yeah, great choice. Love it.
So what are you going to follow up our pair of cover songs with?
I don't know if I can do another cover. I don't know if I have it in me to go to another cover. But I feel like we did a good thing there. I really do. What I think I want to go with, oh, geez, because this could be, we are now blurring the line between hard rock and metal, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm going to go with, okay, all right, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to have any regrets. So I'm going to go with off of City of Evil, Avenged Sevenfold's Backcountry.
Yep.
I think that...
I knew as soon as you said blur the lines, I'm like, it's going to be Backcountry.
I don't want to, but in the same vein, our genres are always switching. And a song like Backcountry, you hear on modern rock radio because now it was deemed as metal, and now it's kind of transitioned to where our metal nowadays is even way more aggressive than this, and our hard rock is right in line with a song like Backcountry. So when I think about this, I think about the music video and them driving and all the bats are around them. And, I think that this is just a great song to drive too, and it's just aggressive. I love it.
Based on Hunter Thompson's 1971 novel Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yep.
The video, you hear the revving at the beginning of the song. Like, yes, it's not about driving, but yes, it kind of is.
Yeah. And you hear that initial line, he who makes a beast out of himself gets rid of the pain of being a man. And the way that Matt Shadows says it, it's like, oh yeah, I want to be that guy. So yeah, I when that's that song that when your foot hits the gas, it starts to go a little bit heavier on that.
Couldn't agree more. And oh my God, I am trying to, okay. Avenged Sevenfold has a hard rock metal vibe, but they also bring some punk into their sound. So I'm going to lean into that punk side of Avenged Sevenfold and literally pivot us just a bit where we dip our toe into pure punk rock and bring it into the road trip mix. Because there is one song that I have consistently said for 30 years that every time it comes on, I don't want to be behind the wheel because I always find myself speeding. And the song is not about driving per se, but it's about road rage. So in no way, shape, or form am I or anybody at my weekly mixtape promoting road rage. But damn it, if I don't drive a little bit faster when the Offspring's Bad Habit kicks on. From 1994 Smash, when I'm in my car, don't give me no crap because the slightest thing, I just might snap. And when that riff kicks in, it's almost metal-esque, where I feel like coming out of Avenged Sevenfold's Backcountry, musically, it actually complements it. And this song is just a million miles an hour. It's so much fun. And yeah, I know I'm kind of dipping in my toe in punk rock in a hard rock mixtape, which on paper might seem odd, but when you listen to Backcountry and it goes into Bad Habit, it does make sense. I promise you that.
I can get behind that for sure. And there are a lot of these bands on this playlist already that, like The Offspring, are what you would deem as like a punk band, or we would put these labels on it. But yet they all, in a sense, have had a song or two that branches somewhere else. So just like that, I could definitely see this working on this playlist. That's a great choice. I believe in it. I stand behind it. So
all
you
right.
have my vote.
Well, if it's Jon Loree approved, then it is good enough for me. John, what are you going to follow up this kind of punk metal mix of Backcountry and Bad Habit with now?
This actually opens a door, which is kind of nice because there were a couple on my list that had to do with driving that were more in the vein of punk. And in a way, this band has kind of transitioned into metal, and they are also my girlfriend's favorite band of all time. So I'm going to go with Bayside, Already Gone. And for those that don't know, they're a very cultic band. Their fan base is called The Cult. So if you don't know Bayside, I highly, highly recommend it. But Already Gone, in the title, no, it's not a cover. It has nothing to do with the Eagles, Already Gone. But this version, or this actual song of Already Gone, is it's a phenomenal driving tune. It's talking about leaving a girl and you're already gone. You're already out of the house and you've moved on. I think that's just a great song to drive to. It's also aggressive and it's also touching the vein of punk just enough.
From 2011's Killing Time, great song. I definitely catch where you're going with the fact that, yes, they're a punk band, but they're also incorporating elements of hard rock and metal into that punk rock sound, similar to what Avenged Sevenfold does from the hard rock side, where they kind of veer a little bit into punk, but it's still considered hard rock / metal. Bayside's kind of the flip of that, where they're a punk band that dabbles in hard rock and at times metal in their sound.
This is where they kind of turned into more of a radio-centric band, even though they were never a radio band. They were always an underground, New York-based punk-ish band. But they always had this different sound and this different approach to it. And nowadays, they've just gone like full-blown metal for the most part, hiring, I forget his name, but the guy that did the last Megadeth record, getting him in to do their stuff. So they've kind of turned metal, but this song, While You're Driving, already gone, that's a nice one.
Oh, God. Okay, I'm going to pull the pin out of what I was talking about before, but I don't know if it's going to work.
Oh, no.
It's not a hard rock song. It's a rock song that has a hard rock drive to it. And to me, it's probably my favorite road trip song of all time. I love when this comes on and I'm driving. I put my pedal down to this song just as hard as I would Kickstart My Heart. So you know what? Screw it. I'm just coming out of Bayside with Tom Petty, and I'm going with Running Down a Dream from 1989's Full Moon Fever. I rolled on, the sky grew dark. I put the pedal down to make some time. There's something good waiting down this road. I'm picking up whatever's mine. Yes, it's not quote unquote hard rock, but hard rock bands love Tom Petty. Punk rock bands love Tom Petty. Metal artists love Tom Petty. Country artists love Tom Petty. I love Tom Petty. I'm going to blur the lines. This is a very hard rockin' Tom Petty song. Yes, in no way, shape, or form is it the heft of Metallica or Motley Crue or even Cinderella or Hinder. But Tom Petty, he deserves to be in this conversation for road trip songs, damn it. Even if it's a little bit of a stretch on my part.
I'm fine with it. You know, even at a certain point, AC/DC is a little pedestrian for the average metal aficionado, you know, but at the time, that was really aggressive stuff. And even with something like Tom Petty's riff, that's a great riff. There is an essence to hard rock that came out of something like Tom Petty. Had it have not been for what he was creating and the whole culture and the vibe of that song, that's a great riff. And like you said, it touched a lot of different facets of music. So an artist like Tom Petty, you're going to find in country and you're going to find it in metal and hard rock. So I'm down. That's fine.
Yeah, and I can also throw in the fact that on Wildflowers, you had Honeybee, which he performed on Saturday Night Live with another drummer we talked about tonight, Dave Grohl, when he sat in with Tom Petty for that live version. And the Foo Fighters and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers had a great relationship through the years. And yeah, I feel like he's woven enough through the fabric of these bands we've talked about that it still makes sense. But John, 19 songs down, you get to put the cherry on top of this hard rock road trip mixtape. And I threw a little bit of a curveball here for you at the end. What are you closing up the night with?
No, you actually picked the perfect song to then lead into what I wanted to close with. It was either going to open this list or it was going to close this list or at some point make it into this list. And you and I both know that we are both big fans of this band, and I absolutely love them, and I think that they're just one of the most underrated hard rock bands that's out there because they can get super heavy, but in this case, they can bring it down to its grassroots, pseudo-country hard rock vibe, and I'm going to go with off Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, Blackstone Cherry's Like I Roll.
Yes.
This is a driving song. This is 100%. This made the top of my list and the first song that I ever thought about when we were going into this hard rock mixtape, even though it has its sort of roots in a country vibe. The song is the perfect driving song with the windows down. The rest of the record's heavy as well, so you can listen to the rest of it and get your heavy hard rock out. But this song is the perfect driving song.
And coming out of Tom Petty, it's the chef's kiss. I love the fact that you went with this one. I had Blind Man on my list under the bottom where it was a little less on the nose songs. Because when that Blind Man riff kicks in, I could literally feel the car like picking up pace.
Yeah.
And Like I Roll definitely has that top down wind in your hair vibe, similar to Running Down a Dream to close it out. So Bravo on that.
And that was a good team effort, I feel, because you did Tom Petty, which was, like you said, it's a perfect segue to get us to a more mellow hard rock that then closes out this playlist.
There you have it, folks. Side B of our ultimate hard rock road trip mixtape, which kicked off with Cinderella's Gypsy Road, Three Doors Down, It's Not My Time, Chickenfoot, Bigfoot, Hinder, Born to Be Wild, the Steppenwolf cover, Saint Asonia's Blinding Lights, the Weekend cover, Avenged Sevenfold, Bat Country, The Offspring, Bad Habit, Bayside, Already Gone, not a cover, Tom Petty, Running Down a Dream, and Blackstone Cherry, Like I Roll. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Now, John, if people want to connect with you on social media and keep in touch with what you've got going on, as well as what you're up to with Tantric, how can they find you?
You can find me at Jon's Drum Studio, Jons Drum Studio, on Instagram, Jon Loree on Facebook. Those are like the two platforms that I use the most. Also, my website, jonsdrumstudio.com, if you want to connect with me about anything related to drums. But I'm always posting ridiculous content all the time. So if you like funny things and you like drumming, then come check out what I've got going on and drop me a line.
One of my personal favorite Instagram channels to follow. Hysterical content, especially if you're a musician. Trust me, it's for you. Make sure to follow Jon on there and check out some of his content, and as well as to check out him this summer when he's on the road with Tantric. Jon, always an absolute pleasure having you on. Looking forward to having you back very soon, hopefully when you have some news of new Tantric music.
I would love to come back, and you know that.
Remember, mixtapers, you can find My Weekly Mixtape on almost all the social media haunts at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. And finally, if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. There you can enjoy ad-free episodes of the show, become a future guest, and so much more. That's all for this week. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.